B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natziach. Today's modern halacha for the modern world is about Brit Milah, one of the most sacred, because Avram and his son and his entire household got Brit Milah. If you look at the end of the parsha of Lech Lecha, and we have 3 mitzvot that are a stamp or like a treaty that shows that we're Jewish. Keeping Shabbat is a treaty, a brit between us and God. Brit Milah is with our blood. Every Jewish male on his 8th day gets inculcated and stamped with holiness. And then, of course, you have tefillin, which is also a ot, is also a sign. And in a Jewish court of law, you always at least need 2 kosher witnesses. So that's why on Shabbat we don't need tefillin anymore, right? On every given day we put tefillin, and actually used to know. Traditionally, I used to put tefillin the whole day. You know that, from sunrise to sunset. Sometimes if they would have to walk, they would cover it under their tefillin shel rosh. They would cover it under their kippah. Under Kabbalistically, anyways, you could do that for Rabbeinu Tam. And their tefillin was very small also. But so I had the zechut last year to be a sandak for the first time for my grandson. So we'll talk a little bit about Brit Milah, try to, our Thursday night shiur and bring new ideas. Now, one of the most important things that I'm going to talk about on my Dvar Torah on the Parsha about Avram and swiftness and alacrity is that we know that Abraham is the personification and the symbol of doing mitzvahs our mitzvot, the commandments of Hashem, with a lot of happiness and eagerness and swiftness, not putting it on the back, right? The opposite of laziness. So therefore, one of the most common mistakes I've seen in our Persian Jewish community, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, is that we know it says in the Torah, Be'etzem Hayom, it's the last pasuk of the parsha. In the Torah, every time it talks about Milah, it says Beyom, Beyom, Beyom. So we learn from here that you're not allowed to do a Brit Milah at night. Honestly, one of my cousins just had a child. Me and my entire aunts and uncles were freaking out because the kid, I don't know what happened, the mother of the kid, they were supposed to do it 2 hours before sunset. The Brit was called. It was like in March. And, the times are still, sunset is fairly, literally the mall cut it like 2 minutes before sunset. We'll see that Rav Ovadia has a chiddush that you're even allowed to do it ben hashmashot and say all the brachot, which I didn't know that. Like mincha, you're allowed to daven mincha 13 and a half minutes after sunset, but I didn't know for Brit Milah it says to do this. It's a pella but shweya. First idea we want to talk about is that anytime you do a Brit, even if the kid is sick, God forbid, and they do the Brit, he only gets healthy after a month. On the 15th day, night is not the time for a Brit Milah. And actually, it's not appropriate to do the Brit at dawn. You should wait for sunrise. Anyways, common sense would dictate that people should be davening shachrit, right? If you want to do it, the mitzvah of Brit Milah in the most pristine way, right? Everybody comes to the shul or the house where the baby is. They daven shachrit, and right after shachrit, they do the Brit. So, the b'di'eved, after the fact, if a person was mistaken and they did it from dawn, then b'di'eved it is accepted because dawn. But that's like a second-rate class citizen way of doing the mitzvah. You understand? The chatchila, you should always wait. Any mitzvah that you have to do during the day, you should not do it from dawn. Rather, you should wait for what? Sunset, like reading the Megillah, davening shachrit, right? A person that has like an early job is allowed to daven shachrit. from dawn. But again, what's the best way of davening? From sunrise. So Brit Milah is no different. Lechatchila, you should definitely do it after sunrise, nets. But if you did it after the morning star came out, dawn came, you're still, and it's okay. In certain instances, let me just say, if a Brit Milah is done wrong, even though they cut off all the extra foreskin, sometimes halacha dictates that they should still poke it and draw a little bit blood as a symbol that like they're doing a retake on it to do it in a more pristine and perfect way. But that would not apply if somebody did the Brit at dawn, right? Even though they didn't do it in the right way, they should have waited till sunrise. They would not have to spill blood again. From right. So he says, let's say God forbid, it's like a war zone and whatever. It's somewhere where it's now or never, like in the Holocaust or in a war, right? If the moil is here now, if we want to wait till after Shachrit, there may be, unfortunately, we live in a very, like we said in the Messiah Yeshayim, unpredictable world. There's no guarantee. So then obviously logic would dictate it's better to do the mitzvah in a second-rate class thing than not to do it at all. If the opportunity is going to be lost to do the mitzvah on the 8th day, then do it at dawn rather than lose the opportunity and do it after sunrise. Yeah. Now, one of the most important things that I was just alluding to is that the Gemara clearly says in Yuma that you are allowed to do the Brit the whole day, right? So let's take a standard equinox day. Sunrise is at 6 a.m. and sunset is at 6 p.m. So you have that 12-hour window to do the Brit. But the Gemara actually learned from this week's Parsha, from next week's Parsha, that Vayashkem Avram Baboker, I think it's this week's Parsha actually, Avram Avinu, when he did the Brit, Himol Himol Betcha. So the Torah says whoever doesn't do a Brit Milah, God forbid, he gets karet, right? There's only 2 positive commandments that if somebody doesn't do them, his soul gets cut off. Not bringing the Korban Pesach and not getting a Brit Milah. Unfortunately, I know 2 Jewish kids that didn't get a Brit. It's a scary thing. So he says, well, I don't think it's actually in this week's Parsha, but we know that when Avram in next week's Parsha wanted to do Akadat Yitzchak, right, he did it, he got up extra early and did it, right? So we know from globally speaking, it's always better to do a mitzvah earlier than later. So that's why the Gemara in Yuma says, yes, you have, like, for example, on that perfect day, that 12-hour window to do it, but rather zerizim, people that are swift and respect mitzvot, they are going to do it early in the morning. And the Shulchan Aruch also concurs with this. But there becomes a debate now. We know, are you familiar with the concept of Berov Am Hadrat Melech? So there's a concept like that could contradict this. So on one hand, we know it's a very amazing thing. Any mitzvah, from A to Z, any mitzvah under the sun, if you could do it now or later, when should you do it? Now, as early as possible, right? Now, there's another general global mitzvah called Berov Am Hadrat Melech, which means the more the merrier, the more people, like Megillah. Can you imagine if 5,000 people come listen to the Megillah in one room and rather than 5? So it's always a bigger respect to the mitzvah where there's, right? If a king comes visit a city, if every single citizen comes to greet the king, millions of people, that's much more respect, right? So each mitzvah is a precious gift from Hashem, right? So the question is, a lot of people are lazy, right? They can't get up early in the morning. If the Brit is in the summer, they could literally cut the tefillahs over at 6:30 a.m. It's like, right? So who's going to come at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 a.m., right? So the question that arises, practically speaking, is in order to maximize the guest list, that more people, and also especially Persians and Sephardim, they know that for us it's a sacred mitzvah. Oh, parenthetically, I need to know this. A lot of people don't know this. You should never invite anybody to a Brit. Inshallah, you should make many Brits for your grandchildren, children, for your nephews and everybody, because there's a Gemara in Psachim that says it's such a big mitzvah to come to a Brit Milah that if you don't come, like God forbid, if you could have went and you were lazy and didn't go, and you got invited, for 30 days you're going to be excommunicated from heaven. The Gemara and that Psachim says. So it's for that reason that when they send you the text or they send you the WhatsApp or whatever, they say the Brit Milah is at so and so time. Because if sometimes emergency comes up, we don't want to make the person be guilty of, right? You understand? So the way you should call the person is like, oh, we're making a bris at this time. You state a fact rather than saying you have to come. Because if you invite the guy and he doesn't come, it's considered a very, Now, when push comes to shove, what's more important? So it's clear from the Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Daf Lev, which stands for page 32, Amud Bet Heart, that this concept of Zerizin Makdimin LeMitzvot overrides Berov Amad Hadrat Melech. So therefore, halachically, we wanted to, in our shir, we always want to talk very practical. Bezat Hashem, everybody should have that great zechut to make Brit Milah for his kids, for his grandkids. If in the afternoon you make the Brit, hundreds of people are going to come. In the morning you make it, dozens of people come. It's clear the Chidah and Rav Chaim Filaji, the greatest of the Sephardic poskim, say that the halachic weight that we put on zirizut, swiftness and alacrity, and doing it in the morning is outweighs the amount of people that are going to, right? It's going to be a bigger respect to the mitzvah, of course. More people, the more the merrier. But still, this would override that. So it would be still considered appropriate to do it in the morning rather than wait for more guests to come in the afternoon. Now, the second part of the shir that we want to talk about. Now he says lechatchila, even if you want to make it later, is that there's a Or Zarua, which was one of the great Ashkenazi poskim. A lot of the Ashkenazi minhagim come from the Or Zarua. The Ramah constantly brings him. He brings down that if you do it after the 5th hour of the day, because that shows that you're disrespecting the mitzvah. So even if you want to delay it, according to the Or Zarua and the Yalkut Yosef that we're giving the shir, today's shir is based on the Sova Samachot Yalkut Yosef. He says that even if you want to delay it, don't delay it till after like 11 o'clock. You should do it before lunch rather than, brunch time. But there becomes a second issue, and that is, do you need a minyan for a Brit Milah? So let's say if you do it earlier in the morning, you're not going to have a minyan. Either because you live out of town or people have to go to work early, there's a lot of industries like the stock market, people have to be at work at 7, or especially the Pacific Coast, because the markets open very early in the East Coast, right? Or people that are in construction. The guy has to, the inspector comes at 7. So are you allowed to delay the mitzvah in order to get a minyan? So basically what we're saying is, we said that under all circumstances, push comes to shove, is it if you're going to have more people join, the more the merrier? Is that more respectful to the mitzvah doing it earlier? We said what? Doing it earlier is more important. But how about if you're not going to have a minyan? So it's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch that when possible, it's better to have a minyan. Now, what's the source for the Shulchan Aruch? It's actually an ancient source. It's an ancient source from almost 2,000 years ago, from the time of the Gaonim. The Gaonim came right after the finishing of the Gemara. They were like 1700 years ago. The Gaonim, Rav Semach Gaon, which I never heard of, he brings, it's brought down in the book Mate Moshe, that one of the Gaonim writes the reason why the custom is always to have a minyan for the Brit Milah is very simple. When the baby is stuck in his mother's womb, it's like he's a prisoner. And just like when a person comes out of prison, he has to say Birkat Gomel. So too, by him getting Brit Milah, and we say, part of the prayers that we say at the Brit is we say, Hodul Adonai Kitov Ki La'olam Chasto, right? So that's one reason. Since Birkat Gomel needs 10 people, so this ceremony of Birkat Milah is like he's, one of the 4 people that has to say Birkat Gomel is a person that was in prison and gets saved. So this kid was like in prison, and thank God he came out alive. A lot of children, even to this day, they pass away during birth. So Baruch Hashem, he's alive. You should proclaim your gratefulness to God in front of 10 people, which is a minyan, right? Always officially, we need a quorum to do a lot of holy services. The Chachmas Adam also brings this. So then there's another reason brought down from the Maharak, brings from the Pirkei de Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar ben Horknus wrote a midrash. He says another beautiful reason. He says because every time Hashem gives us a edus, a testimony, we always had 10. Like when we say Amen Yeshemeh Rabbah or Nach Tishach, when we proclaim God's holiness, that Mashiach should come, Amen Yeshemeh Rabbah or Kadosh, 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 right? We always do it with 10, or even a wedding, we always do it with 10, because we want to proclaim these people are husband and wife. It's a holy testimony. So this is also a holy testimony that this kid is becoming, right, a Brit. He's coming under the treaty of Abraham Avinu. So therefore, we want 10 kosher witnesses or 10 people to be witness that this father was faithful to his, a father has certain obligations to his kid. He has to teach him Torah. He has to give him a Brit, then teach him Torah, then get him married, then teach him a profession. And some say, Rabbi Yehuda says you should teach him how to swim. So since Brit Milah, again, is such a phenomenal, it even overrides Shabbat, right, as we know. So we want 10 people, when 10 people are witness that the Brit Milah happened, then everybody's going to say, yeah, this is a good father. He really did commit his sacred duty. So he says, basically, Rav Avadia says this becomes an exception to the rule we said before, that it's true. As long as you have 10 people, do it in the morning. But if you're not going to have 10 people, then you can do it in the afternoon, whenever the 10 people are available, which is lunchtime, right? Usually people get a break, right? People are not B-car. People need to make money. So either it's lunch, it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner time. So dinner time, you're going to lose it because we said you can't do the Brit Milah now. So the next part. So I just want to say another thing, that my grandson, he should be alive and well. There was a whole debate. My son's Rosh Hashiva had, and my son and his Rosh Hashiva are very close to the Rav Yitzchak Yosef. So Rav Yitzchak Yosef said that the same way that you're allowed to delay the Brit, not because you're disrespecting it, but because you want to have the minhag of 10. It's a minhag that the Gaonim already write that it's appropriate to have, right? 10 people. So the thing was, a lot of times, if they would make the Brit very early in the morning, usually the standard time they make the Brit is like 8, 9 o'clock, right? By the time the Brit finishes, they give breakfast like 9 o'clock. The problem is a lot of times the the entire yeshiva or the kola, like my son-in-law's yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, is a small yeshiva. Everybody knows each other. His whole yeshiva came to my grandson's brit. So 50, 60, 70 people are basically, their morning class is going to get basically go down the drain, because by the time they go to the wedding with the hall where the brit is, and they go back and drop off their wives and kids, especially the kola people. So Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef said the same way we're allowed to delay the milah and make it lunchtime in order to have 10 people, since it's such a great, we don't want the whole yeshiva and kollel to lose the opportunity of studying in the morning. It is okay if you want to preserve the seder, the yeshiva, from not falling apart and nobody attending their classes in the morning, then you're also allowed to delay it and do it lunchtime instead of breakfast time, right? In order to Torah. And that's just, it's an amazing thing that Baruch Hashem, because it's also not like one person's Torah. It's a Torah for a whole institution, right? Because Baruch Hashem, in Israel, it's very much less casual, these things. People just show up and everybody's, it's more tight-knit community. So then the whole yeshiva falls apart, like by the time 9 to 12, by the time everybody comes and it's a Jewish standard time. It starts starting 9, they start 10, and then, but lunchtime in Israel is a 2-hour window, that. So none of the Seder is going to be, it's not going to interfere with their studying. So for that reason also, Rabbi Yitzhak Yosef told my son-in-law, the chief rabbi, said it's okay. I just also want to bring another thing, interesting thing in Bnei Brak. In Bnei Brak, when they make a party at night, the same thing. I was once in Rav Shach's grandson's house. I was a little bit jet lagged. I'd gone, one of my cousins was getting married in Israel, so my friend said, oh, come meet my friend. So I became friends with him, Rav Bergman. So he was very embarrassed. He didn't have any food in his house. He said, oh, you came, I want to give you a banana, some fruit. He said, I had a Sheva brachos in my house. He said, it finished like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, why so late? He says, because in Bnei Brak, again, the same reason is, they never make a party, even a religious party, like a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah or Sheva brachot. They wait. They started like around 9:30. They want everybody to go to their night seder, go to their mishmor, do their learning. Then after Taz, everybody starts showing up to the thing, event at 10. So he said, by the time you came by my house, I didn't have an opportunity. I came to his house earlier in the morning, like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So he said, I didn't have an opportunity to go buy groceries yet. And last night I served a lot of my fruits because his wife's cousin or something had just gotten married, or some close family. But I'm saying it's a beautiful thing that, in the end of the day, yes, the most powerful mitzvah is Torah, especially. It's something to keep in mind that, as great as Brit Milah is, of course, we're not going to, chas v'shalom, do it in the afternoon, but noontime, there are, and a second thing is, a lot of times, like if chas v'shalom, by you trying to do this halacha of making it early in the morning, it's going to cause a fight with the in-laws, or, somebody wants to be sandak, he's not available, and obviously, the most important part of the Shulchan Aruch is the volume of common sense, and the most universal thing that we want to keep in a family, right? We want this kid let's keep our joys of his joys and not make fights over it. So, if everybody's on board and everybody understands, right, that it's important to make it in the morning, make it in the morning. But chas v'sholom, if it's going to cause a fight, and then okay, you could settle. I always get terrified when it's in the afternoon. I'm sorry. I'm but it would be more appropriate to do it lunchtime than afternoon, for sure. Because that. Always the earlier in the day you do it, like the Or Zarua said, it's better. Hashem should help that all the Jewish children should be healthy, They should see the same way that the parents take them for Brit Milah, they should take them for Bar Mitzvah and Chuppah and all the good things. Amen.